Welcome
Hello.
to episode 10 of Little Life, Big Loss. Today we have a beautiful mama joining us. Her name is Crystal. She is in the sunny state like me. She's up in Brisbane. And as I always say, I don't know a lot about her story, but I do know a little bit. She shares some on social media. I was actually lucky enough to get one of the beautiful things that she created. I won't share too much about it because she's going to share some at the end. But one thing I do know is that our babies share the same birthday, just 2 years apart. And so I'm so excited to have Crystal on today. Crystal, I don't take for granted being able to interview you. It's such a sacred space. And I'm really, really grateful and blessed to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So for anyone listening, we've had some technical difficulties, as we do most podcasts. So we're just going to start at the beginning. And I'm going to ask Crystal, who were you before the 14th of July 2021? Because as I know, when we go through baby loss, we become a different person. So who were you before that happened?
So I would say that I was very optimistic, always positive, always chasing my dreams. Believed in the law of attraction, manifesting, all of that, positive affirmations, I have an amazing life. I've got a lot of love in my life, and I'm married. I've met my amazing husband. I feel like I kind of manifested him a little bit, stalked him, and then he, what's the word? So, anyways, after like 3 years of knowing him, we got together, and that was really special. And then we bought our first apartment when we found out we were pregnant with Whittaker, so everything was just kind of falling into place, and everything felt so right. We were just in a really good place, and that's been really hard to get back to that place again.
We are. So, you were super positive before you had Whittaker. You stalked your husband for how long until he came along for the ride?
3 years.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
We worked together, and I noticed him, and he did not notice me, but he was in a relationship, so
well, he's
once
a good
that
man,
was
then.
done, exactly. Then we got together, and we've been inseparable ever since. So
that's
just
nice.
all about timing, and
And I know he's a good man because I heard him walk in, and I heard the way he spoke to you when he just came in and was like, "Oh, was I annoying you?" Like, so kind.
He's amazing. Yeah.
No, that's so good. So, okay, let's talk about trying to conceive. So was it, let's talk about your trying to conceive journey for Whittaker.
Yeah. So pretty early on in our relationship, we kind of knew this was it. So we talked early on about, having babies and getting married and all of those fun things. We were both kind of on the same page with it all really early. And, I was 30, I was 29 at the time. So, that's not old, but things happen, and so that was definitely on my mind. Brian's a bit younger than me, so he's like 6 years younger than me, so but he was all in as well. Oh, really?
Yeah, we have so many.
Did we talk about? Yeah.
I can't remember all the synchronicities we have, but I know there's a lot of them, but that's definitely one.
So many. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's so cool. It just all felt right. So we were very open to falling pregnant, like weren't pushing it or anything, or like desperate to get there. It was just like, if it happened, that would be amazing. And that was kind of like from the start of our relationship.
Yeah.
So we got to 2020, end of 2020, had a COVID wedding. That was like a disaster, but it was beautiful in the end.
Yeah.
It was really special. Just didn't go to plan. And then we fell pregnant, like in the September of 2020.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, that was an early miscarriage, like a very early miscarriage. So I was probably 6 weeks along.
Yeah.
And we were absolutely devastated. Like, we were heartbroken over that. And like, I couldn't even go to work, just hearing people talk about babies at work, and like, it was too much for me for a few days. So I just, like, it really affected us, and it was really hard. And then
because you don't think it's going to happen, you're like, oh, we're pregnant, amazing.
Yeah, you get the test, and I was literally on like realestate.com that night looking to buy an apartment, because we were living in a 1-bedroom at the time, and knew that we'd need like something. Like, it just shifts your whole mindset. Bye babe, love you.
You start planning your entire life from that day you get the positive pregnancy test.
You don't think of anything else, like in that first kind of like blissful, innocent pregnancy. Like, you think that's it, and this is happening, and you're making plans for that Christmas, and like thinking about like when they're going to be going to school, when you're having time off work, like everything changes. It's even for those couple of weeks that we had that hope, it really affected us. So we lost that pregnancy, went straight to sushi. We were like, fuck, like rebelling. And then got we got a party cake, like an party ice cream cake, and just stayed in bed that weekend and like didn't leave the house.
Ice cream cake's like the best. That's great.
It is, hey, yeah. Especially when it's not for a birthday, it just makes it so much better.
You know, it's funny you say that you went to sushi, because I've been saying for years on my social media, one of the biggest things I do in the trying to conceive journey, whenever I don't fall pregnant in a certain month, I like do something I wouldn't be allowed to do if I was pregnant. Yes. So I'm like, of course I'm devastated, but okay, I'll go get a new tattoo, or I'll go get my eyebrows tattooed, or I go get Botox, or, you know, whatever. I'm not ashamed to say any of those things, but, you know, you go sit in a sauna or eat sushi, or all the things that you wouldn't be allowed to do if you're pregnant, just to kind of go, okay, you know, so.
Like a reset, like, it's just kind of like a big F you. And then now, like, sushi is our go-to if we're, like, really struggling, or like if something's come up, we just end up at sushi for some reason.
That's so good.
So
so
had
lost
that miscarriage
one.
And then the following cycle we fell pregnant again. And this time we were very much like reserved about it. Didn't really embrace it at all until like 20 weeks. Just felt a different type of way, even after, you know, like any loss is so significant, like so we just always had that in the back of our minds, but everything went beautifully, like had a perfect pregnancy. Like, I never felt better. We don't eat the best, we're a bit lazy, but like I was eating really healthily and feeling really good, and I just everything was perfect.
So you did all the scans, you had all of the tests, and
Yeah, we went public.
Yeah.
We didn't have like private health insurance, but I never wanted to do that anyways. I don't really understand the whole system. Like, it's so confusing to me. And like, we're in Australia, like,
Yeah.
healthcare is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just went public. Attended all my scans. Like, I was very, very relaxed.
Yeah.
Chose not to do continuity of care through the public system because at the time I had so many friends and family that were pregnant at the same time around me.
Yeah.
And I had two really close friends at
What's
that
continuity
time.
of care? I haven't heard that.
Oh, like seeing the same midwife.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, there's the three levels of care in the public system. Like, you just go in and see whoever, or you can choose to be with a select few of midwives, or you have obstetrician and midwifery care.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you felt like you had enough support around you. You didn't need that kind of continuous care with the one person.
Yeah, and like, two of my girlfriends were highly anxious about their pregnancies at the time, and I asked, like, if I take this spot in the continuity of care, will that take it away from somebody else? And they're like, yes, we only have a select few, like, we can't offer it to everybody. So I was like, oh, I'm fine then. Like, I felt comfortable enough, like,
you didn't want to take it from someone
pretty
else.
Relaxed. Yeah. Yeah, so everything was perfect. Nothing concerning or anything.
You were waiting to go into spontaneous labour?
Yeah, so we got to 40 weeks and just felt so good about it. Like, we weren't anxious, like, we weren't dying for her to be here. We were just so happy that she was, like, obviously comfortable in there, like, still growing. And we never wanted, like, I never said, like, oh, I wish she'd, like, be here already. Like, it was just kind of like, she's coming when she needs to come. Like, and we were just embracing it all. And then on her due date, we kept a bit quiet because it was, like, 2021. COVID was still around a bit.
Okay.
So we didn't do too much in the pregnancy. And then, like, on her due date, we wanted to celebrate, and we went up to Sandstone. That's where we got married, in Brisbane. Had a nice lunch there, and then randomly decided to go to the movies on the way home. We hadn't been to the movies for years, like COVID, it was shut down and all of that.
Yeah, sure.
And we were sitting in the movies, and we chose to watch Fast and Furious. And as soon as the noise, like the sound, came on, it sounded so much louder than what I remember it being.
Yeah.
And, like, me and Ryan said to each other, like, is this, like, normal? Like, am I just old now? Like, this sounds really loud. And at that same moment, I felt Whittaker kick, like, really aggressively. So I freaked out a little bit, and we both jumped on our phones and, like, Googled, like, oh, is it okay to be in the movies at 40 weeks and all of that. And, like, nothing concerning was coming up. It was just like, oh, no, like, their ears won't be damaged, but like, they might just get a little fright or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And she'd, like, calm down and stuff. And Ryan was like, should we leave? Like, we can go now. And I was just like, no, like, surely she's fine. Like, surely she'll be fine. Like,
so Ryan thought it was super loud as well? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we stayed for that whole movie. And I felt like, I remember walking out of that movie theatre and like just having my like my head on Ryan's shoulder, just like in such a blissful state, you know, like we're about to meet our baby girl. And yeah, everything just felt so perfect. And then like in the car on the way home, I felt her kick again, and like we were just like, oh, she's fine, like,
Yeah.
and then yeah, that was the last time I felt her kick.
Oh, honey.
So like we got home that night, and I like put a reel up of the last like 10 months with her, and I felt, yeah, I just felt so stupid for doing that the next day, like when we realised she had died.
Oh, honey.
Like I was spending my time putting a fucking reel together, like when she was not even alive at that point. Like,
but how would you know? How would you ever know that?
Yeah.
Like, how would you
just
ever
like,
know?
You know, looking back on things, you just...
Of course.
Yeah, you just have no idea what's ahead of you.
Yeah.
Like, and even like,
and so
we had yeah.
Yeah, you continue.
We had like our Ryan's family over the next day, like for our last like lunch celebration thing, and like I woke up that morning thinking like, oh, she's really quiet today, but just like not even processing that something, because like I felt the same, like nothing felt different, and you just expect like if something really bad is happening, like your body is reacting, or you're like cramping, or there's blood, or like that's what they show in the movies. Like it's never, it was just like I felt her kick in the car on the way home. We went to bed, and like you're just so occupied with like what's happening like around you. I really wasn't connected to what she was doing, and it wasn't until that afternoon the next day that like my sister-in-law and our family friend were like, I think you really should call the hospital. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'll call them when we get upstairs. And then I think I just knew then, I was like, I need to call, like, yeah,
did
can't
they
be
say
right.
that because you had said you hadn't felt her all day or something, or?
Yeah, so Brian's mum was coming up to me all day, as she always did, like wanting to feel her granddaughter. And like every time she came up to me, I was like, no, I haven't really, like, and still like I was at 40 weeks, like, I've never heard that this happens that late, like,
because what would make you think that your baby's kick was the last kick, you know? Like, you wouldn't fucking think that.
When nothing drastic happened, like, she wasn't sick, like, anything I'd heard about stillbirth, it's kind of like, oh, you know, like a heart defect or like something wrong with the baby, but like she was perfect. I was fine, like nothing felt different. Yeah, it just never crossed my mind.
Something that made me think just then when you were saying like straight away you guys were Googling, is the movie safe and stuff, and so some people they might think, oh my gosh, that's so wild, but when you're pregnant you Google, I mean I do it anyway, Google everything, and what some people don't realise is loud sounds, babies can get ear defects and stuff from like a sound, what's it called, you know, like hearing defects from loud sounds and stuff. So you do have to be careful, like if you're working in an industry where you're using loud sanders and stuff, they say not to. So people, like I know that older generations are like, oh, everyone's so sensitive these days, but there's so much research. So it's a valid thing that I would have also been like, oh, I wonder if my baby's okay with this sound. So it's just...
I even like went on the cinema website to see if they say like don't come in here pregnant or anything. Like,
Wow.
you know, like at Dreamworld,
Yeah.
on every ride, it's like not if you're pregnant, like obviously. But there was nothing like, and nothing really matched up. And like even as we went on and realized what had happened, like looking back in hindsight, like our when we had our antenatal appointments, the midwife said to the whole class in there, like, once you start having contractions, take yourself to the movies, like sit through a movie before you come up to the hospital. So that kind of reassured my mind, thinking like, if she's giving this advice, like surely it's okay to be in here.
Of course.
So like, you know, we have so much guilt over that, but there's nothing that kind of...
I was about to say, hopefully that eases your guilt, because I could hear it in your story that that's obviously something that you guys have fucking churned over for so long, that was the reason. But if she's saying that, then...
Yeah. And like once we realised she had died, every health professional I had, like, as soon as we realised she died, I said, it's the fucking movies. Like, it's from the movie. And all of the doctors, the midwives, everyone dismissed me and was just like, no, like, that couldn't have happened. Like, but no one wanted to hear, like, Mum's intuition. Like, I know that was her. I know she was fighting for her life then. Like, it was, and no one wanted to look into it more, or like, I want to know why my baby's dead. Like, but no one was interested in like all the things that led up to that point. And
and if you feel that it was in that moment that's what happened, that it was the sound of the cinema and it was so loud and that's what did it, then, you know, Mama's intuition is so
and it's
spot on.
Like, someone has died here. Like, why? Like, if I think that that's how my baby died, like, shouldn't we be looking into this and then preventing it from happening to one more child? Like, you know, or like, it's just, it blows my mind that, like, they still say, like, oh, we don't know why stillbirth happens. Like, but you're actually not doing anything to look into individual cases. And if that's going to save another baby, then, like, why are we not doing that? That's like something on my list of things to do. Like,
I actually love that, because my instant instinct was to say to you, like, you know, you can't have guilt. Not that you can't have guilt over that, but, like, you know, I can tell you feel guilty about that and da-da-da. But it's like, no, like, that is where you were. That was the last time you felt her. That it could have been linked, and if you feel that it's linked, then it is. And so you're right. Like, it's not about the guilt of it. It was something that you potentially have learned that could save somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just trying to avoid, like, putting that back on us. Like, like, I feel guilty for it, but I've, you know, looked into everything afterwards, and there's nothing that says, like, you know, don't take your babies. But, like, of course, when you think about it, like, she's literally a grown, like, you wouldn't take a newborn without, like, earphones or, like, into a movie like Fast and Furious. Like, it makes sense now. But when you're pregnant, like, there's only a few activities you can do, and, like, going to the movies is pretty standard for people.
Yeah, of course.
And, like, I've even had people, you know, like, going to the movies pregnant since we've lost Whittaker, and I just, like, it freaks me out. Like, me and Ryan haven't been back to the movies since then.
Of course. Of course.
So, yeah.
Man, that's so powerful. That's really powerful.
And once she was born, her cord was wrapped tight around her neck. So
and see, that's what you'd put on the form, and so I just had assumed, like, okay, the story's going to be about you going into natural labour, and, you know, that's how she was born. Stillborn was from the cord. So do you think that the shock of the sound of the movie, do you think that's when it happened? Fuck.
Yeah. So I think that her cord was wrapped, and then she's gotten so startled in that moment, and it's tightened around her.
Fuck. I'm so sorry. That is so awful. That is.
Yeah.
And so at what point, so you had your family barbecue and your mother-in-law was, wanting to feel her, you realised that you'd had reduced movements. And so what was the process then? You called the hospital?
Yeah, I called the hospital. We went up and we were just so naive. Like, we even, like, called my mum because that was our birth squad. Like, both our mums were going to be in with us. And I just said to her, like, I think she's slowing down, like, ready after her big movement last night, slowing down because, she's so big in there. And we just said to her, like, be on standby. Like, still my head was kind of, like, not processing that something really bad had happened. And, we had gone up to the hospital and we walked in and it was really somber. Like, we'd been in there for a couple of checkups. Like, I don't know, I had a, like, spot of bleeding and stuff and I'd freak out about that. So we'd go up and get checked. And they'd always just be like, oh, yeah, just pop up here and we'll check her for a little bit and everything is fine. Like, silly me, like, first time mum. And then this time we walked in and, like, they had the room set up already with this bedside scan. And it was really dark in there. The doctor was standing there waiting for us. And I was just like, everyone's a bit like, this is a bit unnecessary. Yeah. I did the scan and the doctor just said, oh, I can't find what I'm looking for. So we're going to have to go down to the sonographer. And I was like, okay, like, and she knew then, obviously, like.
Yeah.
So she, like, put us...
So she didn't say she couldn't find a heartbeat. She just said, I couldn't find what I'm looking for?
Yeah, and said we just need to go to the sonographer. And she walked us down there with the midwife. They both, like, had their heads down and stuff, avoiding eye contact. And I actually, because, we were at the hospital that's local to where I grew up. Yeah. So, I had an old friend, his partner was pregnant at the time, and we were due like a week apart, and we didn't know that they'd had their baby yet, but we walked out and I saw him wheeling his little boy down the hallway. So, like, that was kind of like the first, like, kick in the face of what was to come, just like literally leaving that room and being confronted with like what we didn't have. So we like got into the lift and like this doctor was trying to hold my hand and like rub it and stuff, and I was like, I don't know you, like.
Yeah, because you still didn't know something was... You still didn't realise something was wrong, or you were starting to kind of maybe, or...
I think we were just in denial. Like, like, she's 40 weeks. Surely, like, whatever is happening here, they can save her. Like...
Yeah. Worst case, they might just cut me open and do an emergency Caesar that you hear about, you know? Yeah.
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 So they took you down to the sonographer.
Yeah, and we walked in and the doctor, like, ran ahead of us and, like, whispered to the sonographer.
Fuck.
And I got up on the bed. And, it took him, like, he didn't even give it, like, 5 seconds. No. It felt like, but, he was just like, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. And I just, like, went into shock and I like, could not comprehend it. And Ryan was, like, a mess. Like, he just started, like, bawling. And I was like, can you check again? That's what I said to him. I was like,
of course.
Can you just check again? And he's like, I wouldn't joke about this. That's what he said to me. And he, like, didn't check again. I'm like, just fucking entertain me.
For
like,
my peace of mind, check again.
Yeah. But he's like,
Of course you're not joking, and I'm not joking either. Like, check for a fucking heartbeat.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, I didn't know. I just was in shock. I don't even know if I cried then.
Yeah.
But they were like, these three strangers were just like standing there, like, they were lovely, like, but in that moment I just hated everyone and wanted to blame somebody.
Yeah.
And I just said to them, like, can you just give us a minute? Like,
that's fucked. So bad.
And then they walked out and I absolutely lost it and just like, yeah, just like wailed, like.
Oh my word.
And then they didn't even, like, I think they gave us a couple of minutes and that sonographer walked back in and he's like, oh, we're going to need this room for.
Oh, they did not.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, like,
are
cool.
You oh my word. That is not okay.
Yeah. And then they took us back up to the birth suite and we sat in the birth suite surrounded by all that equipment, just not knowing what to do. Like,
yeah, what is happening? Is this real?
Yeah.
What happens next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'd said to them again, like, please, like, just give us some space. And so they did, and like didn't really come back until we but we like called our mums and got them to come up. We didn't tell them over the phone.
Oh my word.
And then the first thing I remember thinking was like, how fucking stupid was I to think that that was a given, that we would be taking our baby home, like, alive. Like, I'd stress so much about, like, or, you know, like, just put so much energy into her coming home outfit, like, all the like pretty things that.
Yeah, what's she gonna wear for the first photo? How we're gonna reveal it?
All of that, like, and I was like, I didn't even think about, is she coming home alive? Like, it's just crazy.
Which we shouldn't. I mean, because that's. I wish it was everyone's reality, but that's, you know, we go into our first pregnancies. You go into your first pregnancy always thinking you're bringing your baby home. You go into every pregnancy, but sadly, now that we're lost parents, like, I see pregnant people and I'm not triggered because sadly, and it's fucked up, I don't see a pregnant person and feel jealous because I think I really
she has no idea.
I truly just go, I hope you get to bring your baby home. Like, I just want that for everyone because I never, ever wish this on anyone.
Yeah. And like, everyone is so blissful about their babies. Like, now when I look on Instagram and stuff and I see people, like, you know, sharing what they've bought and all of those things, and like, that was me once, or, you know, like, and it's just not the case. Like, it doesn't end like that for everybody. And
I have a friend who had been through 5 losses before she had her last baby. And I remember that when she was getting through each stage and she was hitting bigger and better milestones, and she hadn't set up a nursery, and we were pregnant similar time, but she was due well before us. And I pretty much had Millie's nursery set up, like, as soon as our wedding was done, I was setting up, like, and again, I'm like you, I felt so freaking stupid. Like, I have every gadget possible to have a baby and didn't get my baby, and now I'm like, you don't need any of this shit.
No.
But my friend had not set up her she didn't even I don't even think she really wanted a baby shower because she was just so scared. She'd had 5 losses, like, and then she set up the nursery right in the end, and she got her beautiful boy. But I just I now understand, sadly, why she never set up that nursery, because you know,
like, none of that matters. Like, literally, they need somewhere to sleep and somewhere for them to travel safely, and like, everything else you can do without, like,
literally
a monitor. Like, everything else is just all fluff.
I'm like, I had I had 2 nappy bags because, you know, like, it was ridiculous what I had and what I thought I needed. But it wasn't out of, like, I need materialistic things. It was this over preparation of probably fear and nervousness. Like, okay, I need to have nappies in the car. I need to have nappies here. I was so nervous to be a mum.
Yeah. And you just want to make sure that you've got everything possible for them.
Prepared.
But, you just need them here with a heartbeat, and everything else you can figure out.
And so you guys were in the room on your own, and you called your parents, and then they came down, and they didn't know at this stage. They're unaware of what's going on.
Yeah, didn't know. And then my mum, like, the midwife brought my mum up. She met my mum because it was COVID time, so you had to sign in every time you came into the hospital and stuff. And so we didn't know if they'd even let our families in or anything. Yeah, they were amazing with that.
Okay.
And in the lift, the midwife said to my mum, "I'm so sorry." And mum was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, mum just thought maybe we needed to have a cesarean, like, worst case.
Oh my word.
And, like, I was happy to deliver my baby however she needed to come. Like, I wasn't put off by any of that. And in mum's head, it was just like she wasn't processing that. No, the worst thing had happened.
She's in the same boat. She's like, my daughter's pregnant. We're having a baby.
Yeah. So our mums came up.
So the midwife didn't actually tell her, but she just said, "I'm so sorry," and then didn't elaborate.
Yeah. And then mum was like, "What?" Yeah. Like, there's all these, like, I've picked apart this whole scenario as we do. Like, I've gone over and over every little thing again and again. But, like, we were happy with the hospital. Like, they did look after us. But, you know, it's just those little things in the worst moments possible. Like,
of course.
And, you know, they're not going to get everything right. And
they're human.
Yeah. So, like, I give them grace for that. But also, like, you know, like, these little things do make a big difference to someone going through the worst day of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we had our mums up there. And in my head, I was kind of thinking, like, okay, they've gone away to get a team together to get my baby out and save her. Like, no one had really talked about what was happening. Like, so when I realised, like, nothing was happening, like, the doctor even had something else come up in emergency. Also, this was on a Sunday afternoon. So if your baby dies on the weekend, there's no support. Like, there's no, what do they call it?
Like social worker.
Yeah, there's no social worker on hand. There's, like, I think for the hospital we were at, there was one to care for everyone in all situations, but no specific, like, bereavement.
Oh my word.
So we had no one to kind of like I thought I'd be going into surgery. Like, I did not even process that I would be birthing her still. Like, when you don't get told any of this, like, you're so oblivious. Yeah, I was just, everything's thrown out the window.
We birthed Millie on a Friday, and obviously everything was quite a blur. We got rushed to Brisbane Mater, and we had a relief social worker on the Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
And she literally came in, and she was, like, chatting, and she's like, yeah, don't mind working Saturdays, helps me get away from the kids for the weekend.
Oh, my God.
And I just looked at her, and I looked at my sister, like, get this woman out of here.
Wow.
My baby is in NICU.
Yeah, I would take that.
On her deathbed, and you want to get away from your kids by being on weekends. Like, I was...
Oh, my God.
And then I said to the next midwife that came in, I said, I do not want that social worker to come back again. Like, and then they were phenomenal after that, but they did have relief social workers on the weekend, and then they had 2 or 3 during the week. But, yeah, I mean, far out.
People in those positions, like, do you not process like...
She should have known better. That is
Yeah.
not a social worker thing to
No.
say to a mother whose baby's in NICU. Like,
Yeah.
fuck. I mean, ugh.
It's so bad.
So it's a Sunday, you're in a hospital, you're still unaware, you know that the baby has no heartbeat, but
Yeah.
you're unaware of what's going to happen next and what the process is.
Yeah, like, we just kind of sat in silence, like, just not, yeah, unable to process anything. Like, my baby is still inside me, I feel fine, like, no one's, like, kind of rushing around to save her, like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck.
it was just, like, so uneventful, but, like, so catastrophic for us, but, like, there's no urgency in anything.
No urgency
it's just
from them, yeah.
Yeah, and you're, yeah, like, what does this even mean? Like, I remember thinking, like, oh my God, like, we love her name. And we were like, we're never going to be able to say it. Like, what does this mean for us? Even, yeah, like, I didn't really know anyone who'd lost a baby. Crazily enough, like, the old friend that I saw walking down the hallway with his little boy, his sister had a stillborn, and she's the only one that I knew of that had a stillborn, and I actually saw her a couple of weeks before then at another baby shower, and we talked about her little boy. And I just was thinking in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, because I think she lost him at like 35 weeks or something. And I was like, I could not imagine, like, I cannot fathom that. And I was like, I think maybe I was like 37, 38 at the time. And I was like, thank God, like, I'm past that. Like, we're so close. Like, yeah.
I know. And sometimes I look back and I think of conversations I've had in the past with people, and perhaps that was whatever you believe in, like the God or the universe or yourself or intuition or whatever, preparing you to be able to go back and go, okay, I just had that conversation with that woman and I said I'd never be able to survive this, and here she is at a baby shower however many years later.
Yeah, and she was pregnant at the time.
No.
Yeah. So, yeah, she was the first person I thought of when we found out about Whittaker. And
Far. And it doesn't make it easier, but it's just interesting that you're like, why did my path cross with
like
her
you're
that
connecting
many weeks earlier? Yeah,
with all these things, and putting it all together afterwards, it really is like we got big signs from her before this happened. Like, I feel like this was just her destiny. Like, there was so many things that
like this with goosebumps.
Like came up afterwards that we were like, wow, that was her.
She was preparing. Yeah, she was preparing you for it. I don't know if you've listened to my podcast, but I was very similar. I had lots and lots of things, lots of things that came up for me. I definitely had reduced movements, but I also just kept saying, I can't lose her, I can't hurt her. But I also very much struggled to imagine bringing her home. Like, it was.
Yes.
Me
and Ryan.
Really.
We felt the same way as well, and like I was, like, we couldn't imagine her being here, but just never thought that she wouldn't be here.
Yes.
And then, like, and then I wondered if that's like first child, like every parent goes through that. If it's their first child, you can't really imagine like what your life is actually going to be like when they're here. So I wonder if people who haven't lost babies have felt that about their first baby.
Yeah, and because I'm sure you were the same. Like, I felt so much guilt. Like, did I manifest this? Like, why did I feel? I didn't imagine her here. That's so awful of me. Like,
just so unsure of like, am I going to be a good mum? Like, can I handle this? Like, all of those questions. Like,
and a lot of people say like that's so normal. It's your first, but I had severe anxiety. Like, I was like really going to my sister. I'm so scared of hurting her, and I'm so scared of losing her. And my sister's like, and I've got 9 nieces and nephews, so I know how to raise. raise a child, essentially. So it was like, it was a strange amount of anxiety, but whether, again, it was just her preparing me or something like that. But mother's intuition, hey.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened after this? At what point did they come back and actually give you information of what's going to happen next?
Yeah, so I think we were in there for, like, we went up there at about 3. And then at this point, like, Ryan's family's on the south side, so they'd all kind of congregated to my parents' house on the north side, and we're just waiting for us there. So once I realised, like, nothing was happening that night, no one was, like, helping us, the doctor came up and said to us, like, you'll have to come back in the morning and see a doctor then and the support worker, and they'll talk you through the plan from here. So Mum...
So you just went, what the fuck? It blows my mind.
Yeah, Mum said that they offered for us to stay there.
Okay.
But I just, when I knew that nothing was happening, I just wanted to get out of there. So, yeah, we left. I left with my baby inside me. Like, no other information, like, nothing. Yeah, and we went home. Oh, we went to my parents' house.
Yeah.
And just all kind of sat around, and, like, all I wanted was Ryan. I just wanted, like, we didn't leave each other's sides. Like, yeah, like, he'd have a shower and I'd sit next to the shower. Like, I was just so terrified to be alone, both of us. Yeah, so we had a night at Mum's. Mum and Dad's, and then got up early the next morning to go back to the hospital. Like, Ryan's mum stayed at my parents' house, and yeah, his dad and sister and that went home, and I had spoken to Mum and Dad already about bringing Whittaker home with us. So that's in my culture. I'm from New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's the only way we know. So, like,
yeah,
we had my uncle passed away, like, a year or two before, and he was on the Gold Coast, so we had him in Mum and Dad's house for a few days for everyone to come and pay their respects in an open casket.
That's beautiful.
Everyone just stays at the house, nobody leaves, everyone just brings things, and I love
that. I think it's beautiful.
It really is, and I'm so grateful. Like, it's such a celebration of life. Like, we sit around, we sing songs together, we talk about him, we laugh, we cry, like, and everyone is just in on it together, like, just getting everything out and embracing who he was to us. And yeah, I really appreciate that part of my culture.
Yeah.
And that was kind of Ryan's first introduction. He hadn't met my uncle before. And then he passed away. And, like, Ryan's got like, quite a small family, so he hasn't been to too many funerals. And I'm like they pull up to the house and, like, they need strong men to bring him into the house. I'm like, oh, Ryan will do it. Like, bring my uncle in his casket into the house, and he's like,
bless.
He's like, whoa. So, like, he had been a little bit exposed to that. And he, like, loves my family, like, really respects the culture as well and all of that.
Yeah.
Like, we had our COVID wedding, but my nan actually passed away the week before our wedding. So we had already cancelled our whole wedding so we could go back to New Zealand for my nan's, like, to be there with my family.
Wow.
Like, that's how serious we take death and like, honour our past ones. Like, everyone just, like, moves mountains to get back to, like, we went back to New Zealand, isolated there, then had to isolate back here. Like, But you just do it. Like, you don't even question.
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
Yeah, so he already knew what he was in for at that point. Like, we're very, like, very close to family and stuff. Yeah, and I'm very grateful. So I'd had that discussion with Mum and Dad, and they were like, yeah, absolutely, like, she can come here, because we were in an apartment, you'd have to buzz up. And then, like, people can't just come and go. And, like, so we'd already thought about the logistics of everything to do with that. So, yeah, we went back to the hospital, spoke to a doctor there and the support worker, and just kind of went through everything. He talked about, like, having her naturally, like, did not even... the night before, like, my mum had, like, said to me, like, to my face, she's like, you know, you're going to have to birth her. And that was the first time that I had registered that, like, oh my God, like, I'm still gonna have to go through this. And it really pissed me off, because, like, I was so looking forward to labour with her. Like, I was so excited to go into labour, like, feel all of it, like, open to anything, whatever we needed for her to be safe. But I knew I could do it. I just knew in myself that, like, I feel like I was born to, like, breed and, you know, like, birth babies and stuff. So I was really pissed off that, like, this had happened and, like, that had been taken away from me, because I just couldn't even process doing that after she'd died. So when we went back to the hospital and he was just, like, only talking about, like, vaginal birth, I was, like, not even processing that, because I was like, no, I'm, like, not doing that. Like, I cannot. And then he made us, like, go away for a bit and, like, decide what we wanted to do, because he's like, essentially it's your choice, but, like, we do recommend, you know, vaginal birth and stuff. And then I had said to the support worker, I said, also, like, we're taking our baby home. Like, we are not leaving her here. She's coming home with us. And she was like, oh, okay, like, I'll look into it and, like, do what I need to do. I'm like, whatever you need to do. Like, if I have to put her in my bag and take her with me, like,
like,
she's
I'm
not
stealing
staying.
my baby and bringing her home.
So I was like, whatever you need to do, like,
I'm not leaving until I'm going with my child.
And so we went off and talked about it, and I just knew that I could do it, like, birth her vaginally. So we decided on that. And then so this is still the Monday, and if we were getting induced, we weren't going to be going in until the Tuesday to be induced. So we had another night at home. But in hindsight, like, it was wild at the time, but I'm glad that we did have that time at home with our families. Like, just to process everything, kind of slow everything down, because like, at that point there's no rush. Like,
that's true. So and I guess you got to make plans and
talk it through with everyone. Kind of have that time with everybody as well. And it just felt like we were, once we got to the hospital, like, because everything was so wild at Mum and Dad's, like, there's so many people there at that point, like, my nieces are running wild, like, we were just happy to, like, have our own space by then. So like, we were at every like step we were so fearful, you know, like, going back to the hospital for a meeting, having another night at home, and then, like, being admitted into hospital to be induced. Like, all of that was scary, but, like, once we got there, we just made it the best of it and like made it our little oasis space, and it was actually nice.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
So yeah, so on the Monday we'd gone away, talked about like how we were going to go forward, and then our support worker called us and she said that there was a hospice, like a children's hospice, that could look after us and provide after death care.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like hesitant because I was like, oh, they're not going to like there's so many things in our culture that you need to do for the body. Like they need to be east facing, they need to be under a window. Like there's things like that.
Yeah.
Like the house needs to be blessed and all the space, and like you can't have food in a certain place. And yeah, just things like that.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
So I was like, are they gonna like know like all of this? Like usually when I talk about this to, you know, like Aussies, they're like shook, like blown away that this is a thing, and like
that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a bit hesitant about the hospice idea, and the thought of a hospice just sounds so like dark and depressing.
Yeah.
Like you think of old people, like just, you know, like it being like death, like death, just like yeah. So she said that we could go and do like a tour of it. Yeah. And we thought, like, fuck it, we've got like the afternoon, what else are we doing? So that might ease our minds a bit more. So we took my brother and sister and my sister-in-law with us, and we got there and it was so beautiful. It was really calming. The two support workers that met us there, they were incredible. One of them had like massive sleepers in his ears and like tattoos everywhere, like a beard and like piercings everywhere, and we were kind of like, okay. But he is the most gentle soul. Like he's so he's lovely. And yeah, they showed us through everything was bright and like friendly, like just not what I was expecting at all. It was like a really it's a modern building, and this is Hummingbird House, by the way. So
yes, that's right, I just remembered.
Yes.
So AJ that we interviewed on episode 4 was at Hummingbird House at the same time as you?
Yeah, I think a week before with Benji. Yeah. So I never crossed paths with her when we were there, but
okay.
Yeah, we connected.
You've met since.
Yeah, we've caught up. I think we met on Instagram as well, like something linked to Hummingbird House, and then you're just searching for people with the same kind of story. And so
absolutely.
She's lovely. Yeah, caught up.
Love AJ.
A couple of times.
So you checked out Hummingbird House, you loved it.
Yeah. They took us into the room that we'd be staying in, and it was like an apartment.
Okay.
And I just burst into tears because I just knew that that's where we were going to be bringing her. And we were like, are you able to accommodate like a lot of people? And he's like, yes, however many mattresses we can fit in here, like we will make it work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I knew that we'd have like people coming, and
that's phenomenal.
I know. And the first thing Ryan asked, I'm like trying to be like humble, and Ryan's like, how much is this? How much do we owe you?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because like we were going to make it happen. But yeah, we just had to know what we were up for.
And what did they say? Is there a cost?
No. Nothing.
Oh my God.
I know.
Did you just sob?
Yeah.
You just sob because you're just like, oh my, that actually makes me cry.
Yeah.
It's like,
And they were like, you can stay as long as you need. Like even once you have to say goodbye to her, you can stay if you don't want to go home. Like, yeah, it was incredible.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Of course it's free, you know, with all the negative things that can happen and that we say and that, you know, people can do wrong sometimes in these situations. The amount of support that is there that is free is actually stunning.
I know, it blows my mind. Like, we felt
It's
that
amazing.
like in the hospital, that was our first kind of eye-opening experience because like you just don't see it if nothing's going wrong in your life. Like, but there is so many incredible services out there wanting to do. And like we completely understand it now because we're on the other side of that. So like, people just want to do whatever they can to comfort other families going through the same thing that you've gone through. Or
I was talking to somebody the other day about how like the funeral parlour didn't charge us, the funeral home didn't charge us, like all those kinds of things. And every time somebody said you know, you go and you're like, okay, so how much would this be? And then they're like, oh no, there's no cost, and you just burst into tears. Like, oh my god, you're so nice. You know, you just think,
and you're like, how can I ever repay this? Like,
but these people are just trying to help you survive the worst possible thing that could ever happen to you.
It's pretty amazing to see that side of humanity. Like, very special.
So that was the Monday. Oh yeah, sorry, continue.
Another just like reason why we just wanted to decide to go to Hummingbird House, like when they said like they would provide all meals for everyone who was there at mealtime.
Wow.
They had a laundry service, like they would be able to pick all of us up from the hospital, like me, Ryan and Whittaker. And I just knew like, because all my family was already starting to stress a bit, you know, like in the few days that we had in between, like people were coming to the house and stuff, and my mum was getting a bit overwhelmed. And I just knew if we had Whittaker at their house, like of course you're just going to feel obliged to like entertain everybody and just make sure the house is like clean and stuff. And I just didn't want anyone to be worried. I just wanted them to be with Whittaker. So that is probably the main reason why we went to them as well, because they just said like we will take care of everything. Like,
that's amazing.
So that was the Monday, and then the Tuesday we went back into the hospital to be induced, and from there it was actually a really nice time for me and Ryan. Like, we just felt like we were being cared for, and then everyone else was kind of like getting their stuff organised because they were coming to Hummingbird House as well, and we didn't know how long we'd be there for at the time. So it was just nice to have our own time away, kind of like just connecting the two of us. And then Ryan's like requesting like 3 or 4 pillows, and like they had a bed beds right next to each other. We were in the first room as you come into the birth suites or like to the maternity ward, so we didn't have to walk through anywhere, but literally across from like all of the photos of newborn babies and stuff, so that stung a bit. And then they had this big like do not enter sign on the door, and a butterfly.
In private time, they have induced you?
No, that took like an hour.
How long was your labour?
So they induced me that afternoon. Overnight, nothing had happened. They checked my cervix, fully closed still, and then the doctor said like, oh, we're going to need 6 hours before we can try something else, so why don't you just go home. He knew that all our family were at mum and dad's just waiting. So on our way home, Ryan was like, fuck it, I'm getting a tattoo. And I was like, yep, let's do it. Like, whatever each other needed at that time, like, we were just all for it.
Cool.
So mum arranged it, and we ended up at this guy's garage. And I was like, oh, well, he's going to lose an arm. Like, we've lost our child. Like, we'll deal with this.
Yeah,
like,
fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so his plan was to, like, go in and just get, like, Whittaker's name, like, they're really nice.
Yeah.
And he ended up with, like, his whole arm done.
You're kidding.
With her name. And I was like, are you sure, like, you want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he needed that, like, just needed to feel something.
Yeah.
And so I was there with him, and my sister was with us as well. We'd gone down to, like, get cash out for this guy in his garage, me and my sister. And as I was getting out of the car, my contractions started. So grabbed the money and, like, went back to the garage. And, you know, like, my sister, I was like, don't stress him out, but just say to him, like, you know, I think something's happening, like, how long are you going to be? Yeah. And Ryan, he, like, he will drop everything for me. And he comes out and he's like, oh, should I just meet you up there? I'm just, like, at the hospital. And I was like, no, doll, like, you're coming with me.
Yes.
So, yeah, so we nearly finished. But at the point where he was, like, at that point, we didn't realise that Whittaker's, like, middle names had, like, her middle names said Teddy, Anui, Angela, Zeman. Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about her name having Angel in it.
Angela, Angel. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so we worked out, like, by the time, like, when I told him, like, I'm in labour, he was just finishing off the Angel bit and he just had to do the A and then it was done.
Oh my word, goosebumps.
Yeah. So it was like she knew that he needed that too.
Yeah.
And once that was done, she was ready to come.
She's a clever girl.
Yeah. So, like, another crazy thing, like, so many things that she's...
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so I waited in the car for 10 minutes
got his
for
tattoo
it.
and
yeah, finished it off. And then I'm in between contractions, I'm taking photos of his tattoo for him to show everyone. And then we got up there and it was all, like, I was having, like, 2-minute contractions a minute apart straight away. Like, really full on. I didn't even think I could, like, get in the lift. It was, like, pretty hectic. Yeah. And then, we got up there. I, like, was directing everyone around, like, get the fairy lights out. I want the music on, like, get the speaker. I need my water, get my straw. We had, like, our birth squad there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it actually was a really beautiful birth.
Yeah.
I had one moment of just, like, on the ground holding onto Ryan's leg, just, like, so mad that, like, we just...
It's fucked up.
Yeah. Like, all of this for, like... and then we have to say goodbye to her.
Yeah.
And it's like... we still had our humour, you know, like, in those days. Like, it's not all sad, like, and you're trying to hold on to who you are. And it's just so wrong that you have to go through all of that and say goodbye to your child, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wrong.
It's so fun. And you would have been in shock, like, you still would have been feeling, it's still surreal at that point. You're not, like, it's not real.
Registering,
like,
nah. And I would say that shock lasts for months afterwards.
Absolutely.
Like,
how long do you think,
you have that moment of like saying goodbye to them, and it's still like not registering like for months and months after. So total labor from like that first contraction at the front of night owl to like when she was out was like an hour 45.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so quick. And like when she came out, I was on the gas. The gas is amazing. So good. But I just felt so like connected to her, so in tune in that moment. Like it actually was kind of euphoric, like which I'm so glad we had that experience, but also like just shit to have like the perfect pregnancy, perfect birth, like and like the absolute worst outcome.
Absolute worst. And so did they obviously the dad or the other partner normally cuts the cord and stuff. Did they at that, because at this point, did you know any reasons why? It wasn't until she came out that they saw the cord. Did the doctors then see the cord when she came out?
Well, this is another thing. So in the midwife report, she had on there that the cord was wrapped tight around her neck and her body, like her tummy and her legs. Yeah. And in this moment, I had my eyes closed. Like when she came out, I had felt her head before I pushed her out, and then my eyes were closed like the whole kind of labour. Ryan was like just so focused on me. We had our two mums there, and they saw the cord wrapped, but nobody told us.
Okay.
And so we waited for 9 weeks to have that conversation with the hospital about what they had found to be the reason, and that is all that was in the report. They tested the placenta. We didn't do an autopsy. Tested the placenta, the cord, all of that, and nothing else came back with any abnormality. She had an MRI as well. It was just the midwife's report that said the cord was wrapped. And no one told us.
Were they trying to protect you, or like had your mums seen it as well? Your mums saw. Oh, bless.
Yeah, they saw it. So but like my mum said afterwards, like that they looked at each other, but the midwife didn't say anything, so they didn't know to say anything. Like, so I don't, like, that's definitely like on the midwife. Like they got someone else, like a more a more senior midwife to come in and like look over her whole body to see if there was anything. Like,
but I mean, is that not the reason? Like the cord being wrapped around the baby, is that not the reason?
Yeah. So at that point, like they could have said, like, "Oh, her cord was wrapped tight. Can't see anything else here." So we'll put that down. Like, yeah. So
that's strange.
That was, we gave a bit of feedback on that, and the senior midwives who did our like check-in thing and went over the report and stuff with us, they like profusely apologized and like said there was no reason why she shouldn't have held back that information at the time. So and then we later found out that we had a really new midwife, like very fresh, which is pretty wild that but they've got to learn somehow. And she was really great. It's just a couple of things, but like I said, like she's only human. And we were happy with her. So
what a wild experience for her as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so confronting. There's so much for them to have to go through. Like
Absolutely.
I couldn't do it. Like, my hat goes off to all of them. Like, they're incredible, having to put themselves in those situations. Like,
and it's crazy though, because not all of them experience it, you know, like Dylan and I got interviewed last week or the week before. A family friend of his is a midwife back on the Central Coast, and she was running a training session for 17 or 18 midwives, and we got invited to share our story. And some of them in the room had given feedback like they have never experienced anything so traumatic, and so they've actually been listening to the podcast because it's like, yeah, because, you know, if they've never experienced this, they want to know, like, okay, if I do ever go through something so traumatic, how do these mums and dads need to be supported?
Comforted and supported, yeah.
And their role is so important.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that there's just nothing, like, I think they get half a day at university of, like, just talking through, because this is a massive thing that it all comes back to midwifery care. Like, some families are only going to get that support, you know, for a long time. That's all they're going to get. And it's such a crucial time.
Yeah.
You know, those few days. So, they 100% need more education around bereavement, not just for us, but for them too, like, to feel comfortable enough. Like, you're never going to feel comfortable in that situation, but, like, at least they should be doing more to educate.
Our NICU nurses up in Brisbane Mater were absolutely sensational. And like, so sad that they must have gone through it so many times to be so good at it, but their care was out of this world, and I'm so grateful for that.
And I think, like, that's the thing too, like, it depends where you are birthing, what care you are going to receive. Like, we were at a smaller Brisbane hospital, and in one way I'm kind of grateful because I do feel like we had the midwives coming in and checking on us once she was with us. Like, that whole time, everyone on the ward knew who she was, and, you know, like, they see about 7 stillbirths a year, which I thought it would be a lot higher, but, like, the Mater sees 200 stillbirths, and that's just stillbirth, like, before like infant loss. So it's just all there's just nothing good about it.
And so how long did you spend with her in the hospital before you were able to take her over to Hummingbird House?
So we had one night with her in hospital. They could have let us go that night, but it was Origin, like the third game, and Ryan's like, this was really special because, like, we feel like Whittaker loved football. Like, Ryan felt her kick. The third, like, when we were watching the Panthers play, like, and that was our team. So that was, like, his first time of feeling her, and just, like, little things like that, like, she'd arc up when, like, the footy was on or our teams were playing. And, like, we are obsessed with footy. We love footy, and that's another thing that we
have in
connected
common,
with. Our husbands go for Newcastle, so...
Yes, that's what I said to Dylan. I said, I'm sure this is the lady whose husband goes for the Knights as well.
So he's obsessed. So, like, our first moments as a family of 3, we literally, like, got everyone out of the room, like our parents and stuff. They've been up there for a few hours. And kickoff started. Like, the game started. And, like, I had a burger in my hand and her in my other arm. Like, and it was just such a special time for our family. Like, that's... Like, football has been a big release for me and Ryan since we lost Whittaker. So, it was just, like, so fitting and so us, like, takeaways and the footy. We stayed in hospital for a night, and then Hummingbird House came the next morning, picked us up, Whittaker was in like a little cup, like bassinet thing, a transportable bassinet thing that they all arranged for us.
Wow.
Yeah, because even like the logistics of like transporting your baby is a little bit confronting and confusing and all of that, but you just need like a certificate, and behind the scenes they organised all of that for us.
Okay.
Yeah. Just in case you get into like an accident and
No
there's a
way. Oh yeah, of course.
So there's things like that that need to be addressed before you can do all of these things.
Hummingbird House organised that, or the hospital, or them together?
Yeah, I think it was the hospital. Afterwards, they were kind of like, we had to do a lot of paperwork to make that happen for you. Yeah, all that was sorted, and then our families were coming to meet us at Hummingbird House after, so that was kind of good that they didn't have to drop everything to come and pick us up, and like we could just do our own thing, meet them there later or whatever. And then we got to Hummingbird House. Our room was like set up. They had like a little hamper package. And we decided to make, like, we had a 2-bedroom apartment, and we decided to make one of the rooms like her day room. It's like we just put all the mattresses in there, blankets and everything, because to delay her deterioration, she had to be, like, the air conditioning had to be at 16 degrees.
Okay.
So I put fairy lights everywhere, candles everywhere. We had our music on all the time. We were able to grab some stuff from home, so we had like some of her books with us. I just packed we had to, so on that Monday after the tour of Hummingbird House, we had to go home and get outfits for her to be cremated in. And for her service, and me and Ryan really hadn't, we didn't really buy many clothes for her. She got heaps of hand-me-downs from my nieces, so I didn't have like a special outfit for her from us, and I wanted that for her. But there was something like from our baby shower, she got spoiled, so but yeah, just even having to go through everything, you've like envisioned all of these things, and then like now I'm like looking at everything and I'm like, I just want like a hand knitted thing that was made just for her to lay in her casket with, like. I know, it's so and you've like spent all this money on like pretty. I was obsessed with wraps for her, and I ended up taking all of them, and it was good because her skin was so fragile. We couldn't dress her, so we just, and then she was on ice in her bassinet at Hummingbird House, and then had an ice brick on the top of her as well. So instead of dressing her, I would change her ice brick every time they would freshen it up, and put like a different wrap around it for her. So and like
they didn't have a cuddle cot, or is that a version of one?
Yeah, this is more efficient.
Okay.
Like the cuddle cot isn't as cold as having.
Okay.
It's called Techni Ice. Yeah.
And is this because you guys wanted to have longer with her because of your family traditions?
Yeah. So they had said how long we could have her for, depending on her condition. Hey, babe, can you put the light on for me? And this one. yeah, so that was to maintain her condition. But she actually, like, we feel like one of her cheeks got better over time. Like, she had one cheek that was, like, peeling quite badly because she'd been in my belly for 4 days after she died by the time we'd had her on the Wednesday.
I was wondering if that was maybe the reason why. Yeah.
Yeah, so her coming out, she was already in like she was very fragile. Her skin was coming off everywhere. They spent 4 hours wrapping her skin just to keep her with us.
Yeah. It's so sad.
Yeah. So yeah, one of her cheeks got like better. It like I feel like it like plumped up more from all our kisses and all our love.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. But
I love that.
Yeah, so if we wanted to have her with us, that's how she had to be like kept. And I don't I'm so glad we had that time. We ended up having 6 days with her.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
honestly,
so nice.
it was so healing and comforting, not just for us, but for everyone. Like, so many of our friends and family got to meet her, and got to see, like, she had huge feet like her dad. She was 9 pounds 7 and 57.5 centimeters. Like,
Girlfriend.
me and Ryan we're massive, so like we knew we'd be birthing a toddler. But yeah, like, so it was just so, I think it really helped us in the long run of everyone being able to meet her like that. And in such a beautiful setting, like not in a hospital. Like, we were all so comfortable. Like, it was a really nice space. We made it our own, and everyone was just kind of looked after, and we just got to be with her.
I love it so much. I've heard such phenomenal things about Hummingbird House, only really from yourself and AJ now, but I really wish I knew more about it when we had Millie, because we were given the opportunity and we said no when we kept everything at the hospital, and once she passed, we very quickly left the hospital. And do I wish we did things different? Yeah, I get, like, listening to more and more stories. I definitely do. I think it's beautiful that you're fit. My dad is so sad he never got to meet her, and even at the funeral, he still got once he expressed that he was sad he never got to meet her. I said something to my friend's mum who worked for the funeral home, and she said, "Hey, we can take him. He can go meet her and it was just such a confusing time, and he ended up deciding not to. And I just wish now I gave more people the opportunity to meet her even after she had passed. I just didn't even think of it. It was not Dylan and myself and his mum went one day, but that was it. And I think what you guys did is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, like from the minute she was born to I put her in her casket and our dad's like closed the lid, she was never left alone. Like, we were with her the whole time. And it's like my biggest mission is to make parents aware of these options that you do have. Like, it's in the like it's how do you say it? Like, you have every right to do whatever you want with with any family member that's passed, and people don't realize that, and we look at death so differently. Like, in my culture, it's just all about honoring them and embracing them after death. Like, it's not scary for us, but it's just such awful, a societal thing. Like, we need to be talking about this before it happens so that people can make their own educated decisions about these things. Like, you don't have much time, and if you're not being guided or like heavily encouraged, like, I don't know about you, but like I was not on my phone at all. Like from the moment that she had died, like you're not looking stuff up. You're not Googling like what do I do at this point. Like you literally need people in front of your face saying like this is how it can look, and this is what you should be thinking about, and like just giving people enough time to process these things, because like losing a child, having to walk away from the hospital empty-handed, like we got to take her in the car with us. Like us leaving the hospital that day is actually a beautiful moment for us, because we knew that we were going off to be a family for a couple of days. Like we got to sleep in a double bed, and we had her beside us. We took her to bed with us every night, hardly slept, just looked at her like for 6 nights. Like I'm just so grateful that we had that experience, and there is no one that I know that has had that same experience. So like it makes such a difference, and just to be able to make your own decision about that and be given enough information, and like and like I feel like you need like a visual or like to hear someone's story about this before. Like it can't just be like, oh, do you want to take your baby home? Or you can take her to Hummingbird House, it's a children's hospice. Like you need to hear how like beautiful that time can be.
Like, I'm like, we did get offered all those things. Like it's not as if we didn't know about it, but in that moment, because again we were in shock and denial, and we were like, no, we just want to. We couldn't imagine transporting her. But you know, we did leave her at the hospital once she passed away, but then we got home and I was in shock. I was shaking and I'm in bed and I'm like, Dylan, just hold me. And the next day I rang my friend and I said, you need to get your mum, who worked at the funeral home, she needs to go get her. Like someone needs to go get Millie. And I never for a second thought that I could have gone and got her, or I just, it's so fucked up. Like it's and you know, I wish I knew that I could do all those things, but also if I felt that it was right in that time, I would have made it happen. But I just, you're just in shock.
And there's so many things to process. There's so much going on. Like it's so overwhelming. And then for the people that are caring for you, I feel like they don't have enough information to give people like to set these things up, and like the paperwork for it all and all of that kind. Like there's just so much to it that makes people not like, just steers them away from it. But like it's such a societal thing, like dealing with death and all of that. Like I'm just lucky that that's my culture and that's all I know. For everyone else here, like they're not exposed to that. And
no, that's right.
But that's how we used to look after our loved ones after death, like going like thousands of years back. Like that is how you would.
My auntie and uncle had just stayed with me for the weekend, and they've just spent 5 years living outback Australia, outback Indigenous Australia. And the way that my uncle was speaking about death was actually really beautiful. And again, I feel like they stayed with us this weekend for me to get a bit of a message for myself, because I'm obviously, it's only been 4 months today since Millie was born.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fresh, and I'm still struggling so much with all of the things. And, you know, he was just talking about the way the Aboriginals deal with death out there is, or First Nations people there, you know, they gather around and they have ceremonies, and and it was just like, and one older man out there didn't want to get the COVID vaccine because he said, but if I die, I'm going to go and be with my people. And I was like, oh, you know, and I believe in heaven and I believe in all of that, but it was just the way my uncle was expressing their thoughts on death, and it was just so, and it's so common out there, you know, people are dying a lot more out there because they've got less than we have here, and it was beautiful. It was nice.
I think we need to look at all of that and you know, learn some lessons, because especially in our situation, like stillbirth, there is no time in your life where you are making so many changes for that little person, to, especially if it's your first baby, to come into your life. You're changing everything about your current situation. Like, so when that is ripped away from you in such a horrific way, how on earth are you meant to process that? Like, 2 days in hospital and then having to walk away from that, like, that cannot be the standard that we are okay with. Like,
I know, and it is,
yeah,
around not that we're okay with it, but it is the standard,
yeah,
It's, but because it, and I say this to so many people, like everyone says, oh, you had 6 days with her, and that must have been awful. Like people say silly things, in comparison to a stillborn, and I say, I assure you, a stillborn is the most fucking awful way to lose a baby. I truly, like, I feel blessed that I got 6 days with Millie alive whilst she was sick and she never opened her eyes and she was so unwell. I feel blessed, and I just, I just, no parent should, like, my heart breaks for you
all
going
of
through a
it is just so
stillborn.
shit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would think, like, yeah, I feel it's just none of it is okay.
No,
Hey, like,
it's not, but I just, my heart for
yeah,
that, and I just, and I think because the shock of it, and then usually people don't get the amount of, like you said, you got 6 days afterwards, which is not
yeah,
common, and I think you knowing that and fighting for your rights and being like, you know what, this is the amount of time we want to spend with our baby, we're going to do that.
yeah,
Sharing that is so powerful,
yeah,
so that people just are educated and know, and again,
and
we
can
go
make,
into these
like,
things not ever thinking it's going to be us.
yeah, because, like, we have no regrets about any of the things that we did with her. We got to make our time with her so personal. Like, we personalized her casket. We took, like, her wallpaper down of her bedroom and put it on
Oh,
the inside.
beautiful.
So, like,
Yeah,
she
that's
got
right.
to
Yeah.
go with that, like, a piece of her home with her. Like, the kids got to do, because we've got 2 nieces, 2 nephews, all of the kids together got to do, like, art paintings, like fingers and toes and stuff with Whittaker for their
Yeah.
grandparents. So,
Oh,
like, all these little things, everyone got to have their own time with her, like, hours.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Ryan's got how many minutes we spent with Whittaker, because we know, like, when she was born and then when we left, like, took her to the chapel, so it's like 8,311 minutes we got to spend with her. And this is the thing as well, when we were working it out, it ends up being like 5 days plus 11 hours and 11 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
11:11.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm such a, like, I will preach it to everyone that I know about, like, knowing your options, just being aware that there are, like, there's only one children's hospice in Queensland. There's 3 in Australia in total.
That's that's not enough. Not enough.
No, it's
yeah.
not. But you do have the choice of bringing them to your home.
Yes.
Like, anyone that's passed away.
Which I think what you're sharing now and saying how beautiful that is important message, because again, we had that option, but we were just so spun out by the idea. We were like, oh my gosh, absolutely not.
Yeah, you can't get your head
not,
around it.
No, and not that we would change anything and there's no regrets or whatever, but had I have known how beautiful that could be and what that could
that would
mean,
look
and
like.
it's I just it's but in that moment you're just like, I can't take on any information about this. This is not real. It's not right.
Yeah, I totally get it, because, like, even for me, so I'm, like, willing to bring my child into our home, but when they were offering, like, heartfelt to come and take photos. I was like, absolutely not. Like, no.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to be parading my daughter around like for photos. Like that's what like, but like they forced it on me anyways, and they
Did
just showed up
they?
to Hummingbird House, and I'm so grateful we have those
Oh,
photos. Like
good.
they are like our own. Like that's what I will grab if
I'm
our
so
house is
glad
on
you said
fire.
that, because I was like, oh my, yeah, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you said that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I love my heartfelt photos. Absolutely.
Yeah, like how, and like so that's me processing that thing that is so unfamiliar to me, because like in our culture we don't really like take photos of them once they've passed.
Okay.
So I think that might be where that came from. But
Of course.
you know, like yeah, they're my favorite things. They're everywhere in our house and like all our family.
And so you are doing phenomenal things in the space of baby loss since you lost Whittaker, and it's only been, not only, but it's, you know, in such a short amount of time, essentially 2021, what are we, July 2023, so 2 years plus 4 months.
Yeah.
And what are all the things that you have done and you are doing?
So we thought of this like literally in the days that we were in hospital, like being induced, when we realized that not many people take their babies home or know about that option. We were like, what can we do? Like, how can we get this message out to people? Like, we were already thinking about it before she was even here. And we thought of putting care packs together, because like you get given so many leaflets and pamphlets and stuff, like you're not even looking at any of that, like until you get home. I've still got it in
files next to me.
Yeah. And those days are so crucial. So I was like, what do people need? Like, we were at 40 weeks, so I literally was so organized. I had like all our bags in the car ready to go. Like, we could have gone anywhere for 2 weeks. And if anyone loses their babies at 20 weeks, like 25 weeks, they're not going to be as prepared. So we wanted to provide families with care packs, just with like basic toiletry essentials for them to feel a little bit more comfortable. Like we got given the beautiful Precious Wings box, and that was amazing. It had everything for Whittaker, like for us to preserve our memories. But yeah, we just felt like there was nothing for the parents to feel comforted. So yeah, we started talking about doing care packs, and then having a brochure in there of our story and how beautiful our time was, like as the days progressed, and like we had that amazing experience with Hummingbird House. We wanted everyone to know about that. So we thought, yeah, we'll do a care pack. And also, like, for us, Ryan felt like he was left out of a lot of the, you know, like everyone is directly looking at me and, you know, like supporting me, like no one's really acknowledging him as much. So we wanted the dads to feel acknowledged as well. So we've done separate care packs for mums and dads, and for same-sex parents and single mums and that kind of thing. And we include a tracksuit in there, because when we went to Hummingbird House, the temperature was so low. We were like going through tracksuits constantly. So, and even like just to get you home and stuff, like if you choose not to do that. Yeah, it's just like all kind of like really simple things, like toilet, toothbrush, toothpaste, all of that, body wash, just like enough to get you by for a few days. But the most important thing in there is the brochure about our story and the beautiful time that we had with Whittaker. So yeah, we started the care packs. We called them Whittaker's Wings care packs. And I think we delivered our first lot like in that October. So maybe 2 or 3 months after, we got a lot of support from Hummingbird House, like checked in with them to see if they thought that like this would be something that would be helpful. And our hospital as well, like our support worker, she was amazing. So we checked in with her a lot. So far we've donated over 250 care packs to hospitals in Queensland. And we are currently in the process of making it an official non-for-profit charity.
So good.
So that should be done at the start of next year. And then we'll be able to go hard. Like, by the end of it, I've got such a clear vision of what I want for this space. Like, there's so many avenues of support that need to be addressed, and like so many little changes that can be made or looked into that really aren't that far-fetched, that can make the system so much better for grieving families. So I've got like a 10-year plan for that. And I'm really excited. I'm so pumped, like, just to make a difference. And like, there's just not enough being done, and it's only until you go through this that you realize what is actually necessary. So like, my long-term goal is to have like a stillbirth birthing centre.
Oh, wow. Of course. I mean, because when you said before, like, they just took me into maternity, and I thought surely they can take you somewhere else, but no, of course not. You know, it's like...
Yeah, they need all their equipment and stuff. But, like, that is just such an obvious solution for me. Like, have one in every metro city where they don't need, like, full bereavement teams in every hospital. They just send, like, if you've lost your baby... You go to this stillbirth birth centre, have your baby there, you're surrounded by other bereaved families. It's a less clinical space. Like, you've got double beds for families to sleep together once their baby's here. I think, like, you need at least a minimum of, like, 4 to 5 days with your baby before you're making decisions on what's happening after that. Your shirt's inside out. Yeah, no, just put it on because I'm not and like, it's just so clear to me. And like, having like postpartum death doulas available to take you through like returning home. If we had a facility like that, like rocking chairs in the bedroom, so you don't have to leave your space.
And if that's an option and people know about it, it's more spoken about, and so then people know how common it is, because it is common, and because it's so not acknowledged, it's not talked about, it comes as such a shock. Because it's like, I just did not know this could happen. And so if there's, not that everyone wants to know about a stillborn hospital, but sadly we need to know about it, because you need to know. It's so necessary. Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal idea.
And like, even there's so many things I have on my list. Like, even like you talking about that, like, I think that we need to be having these conversations in early pregnancy, like with your midwife. So so just having like a conversation, like, okay, like, these are the statistics, and we don't want you to, like, I don't know, like...
I know,
They just need to say, like, okay, if this happens, this is what it looks like for your support from here. Like, you would birth after 20 weeks. Like, people don't know that. Just, like, getting all of those facts out of the way, and, like, it's not like a scaremonger thing. Like, it's not to put fear in people, but like, every procedure that you go for, you're told of like all of the things that could happen. You have to sign away. Why are we not talking about this? or even like so like giving someone who's pregnant in the very early stages, unfortunately, like giving them a miscarriage pack to take home, and like, you know, like talking about it then and saying like, we hope to God that this does not happen to you, but if it does, these are the steps you can take at home to hold on to your baby, and like, you know, talking about it then, and then so even if it's not happening to you, if you know someone who's gone through that, you're more aware of like what they've actually had to experience, and like if it's happening to you at home, you know, like you're just educated a little bit to be like, okay, like this is what I need to do, and I've got support there for me, like.
Yeah, because we get told, like, it was interesting when you were saying earlier, like, you had a sharp kick and then you had another one and then you had reduced movements. My OB had said to me, no, I think I did, like, a post about it because I had reduced movements, and I said something along the lines of, if you have a lot of movements and then reduced, that's a problem. And then no one knows what's right and what's wrong and this and whatever, but you're not, all we were told was, any change of movement, you get checked out. Do you know what I mean? But it's,
how do you know that as a first time mum though? Hey, like there's just so much pressure on you. I never felt Millie move.
I never felt her kick or punch. Because, and then once she was born, she had no muscle tone, so of course. But again, I was a first time mum. I didn't know, and so you know. And so then for you, and there's so much misleading information, you know, is a sharp kick or punch, you know, it's just, you know, but to know, like, all I was told was come in if that happens, but it was never like this, like, a serious discussion of your baby could stop breathing or your baby might die. Because, of course, no one wants to hear it, but then when it happens, it's fucking so shocking.
Yeah, and it's the worst position to be in. But you're so blindsided. You've not been told anything unless you've been exposed to it. Like, how is that fair for any expecting parent to just have absolutely no idea? Like,
I know.
Like, there's still such a stigma and so much silence around baby loss. And, like, this is why, like, just a simple conversation in early pregnancy can kind of, if we're talking about it, like, we're just more aware and conscious of other people around us as well, like, who have gone through it. Yeah.
And it's not contagious. It's not like, you know, if we talk about it, it's going to happen. Or if you have a like, you know, it's not, if we tell you these things, it's going to happen to you. It's just like, hey, these are the stats, these are the statistics, this is what, you know, and then we are all more, there just definitely needs to be more education and more discussions around it.
Yeah, that's where it needs to start for sure. And even like, I really hate it, like how you were just saying about the like no movements and then like really aggressive movements. Like, obviously, if there's no movements, like you're there, like something has happened and it's probably too late, or like, you know, like for us, if we would, like, they just really like hone in on like no movement. They hardly talk about like sudden movement. Like, it's just kind of like a side note, like, oh yeah, sudden movement. But like, when we were at the movies, we were literally down the road from our hospital.
Fuck.
So, like, if we had known, like, those really aggressive movements could mean that she's in distress, I would have went straight to the hospital, like, and it probably was too late then as well, because I feel like that is when she, you know, you don't get long before. Yeah.
So is that something you've learned since, because I don't know this information, so if there is a sudden movement like a really intense kick or punch, is that's obviously cause for concern?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, like, that's probably your first sign of distress that your baby's in. And then, like, having nothing afterwards, obviously, like, that is the moment that she, was...
It's just fuck, I'm so sorry. And you, like they say, because I remember like my OB saying to me, any change in movement, so increased movement or decreased movement. So it was a change in movement, but again, I never felt familiar, so I didn't know any difference between what was increased and what was decreased. But that's really interesting that you say that like a sudden movement or a sharp movement is potential distress.
Yeah, it's just, I really hate the movement thing. Like, it's just so much pressure on a mum, like, as if you don't have enough going on already. And like, I remember with my friends, like, they always knew when their babies would hiccup after every meal, or like, you know, they knew where, if that was a hand or whatever. And I just like had no idea about Whittaker. I was just like,
me either.
You know, and I felt bad that I didn't, like, they always say, like, watch your baby's movements, like, make sure that you know their pattern and stuff. And, like, it's just too much.
Yeah.
And that really is the only indicator that they can, you know, that they have, that your baby's okay, is the movement. But like,
and so then you feel guilty. I know, I've gone over the guilt in my head a billion times around the movement. And so I want to ask you how you're now pregnant with Whittaker's little sister.
I am.
How I want to cry for you. That's so beautiful. I'm sure with that comes so much fear and anxiety, but how has it been overall, like, you know, with movements and it, just in general, how have you been?
To be honest, like, it's been much the same of Whittaker's pregnancy, so it has been a really lovely pregnancy. And we're very close now, like weeks away. And I still find it a bit numbing, to be honest. Like, we're only just kind of really starting to embrace, like, what it means for us to get this far and for her to come home. Like, I literally, like, picture walking through the door and, like, showing her big sister, like, photos on the wall. So we've had a lot of freakouts. We've been up to the hospital a few times.
Of course.
But apart from that, like, it has been a beautiful pregnancy. It's just been hard to kind of, like, we've kept it to ourselves. I am very I'm very present in the baby loss community, but I've just kept this to myself because I just needed to get through it on my own without, you know, like, having all the extra, like, pressures of, you know, everyone else's kind of experiences and stuff, which I think has really helped me, like, keep myself together. But yeah, it hasn't been easy. And, like, for me and Ryan, like, with Whittaker, I feel like we would always have, like, our moments on our own, like, our really heavy days, and the other one can pick the other one up. But with this pregnancy, like, we are both struggling, and like, just emotionally. So it is really hard to, like, keep each other up at the same time.
It is so much pressure on a marriage. Like, it's and it's probably that could be a whole podcast in itself. I mean, like, you know, we got married while I was 22 weeks pregnant, and they say the first year of marriage is the hardest. Try to add, and then, you know, it's hard when you have a newborn. Try adding baby loss into a marriage. Like, it is not a walk in the park. It's so hard. You know, you're trying to keep your own head above water. You're trying to keep your loved one's head above water. It's so hard. And I can
Yeah.
only imagine that then being pregnant again. I fear for it. You know, I'm so excited for it, but I'm so fearful of it. And I can just only imagine the additional things it adds to you and Ryan.
Yeah. It took us a long time to like, well, like from the start of losing Whittaker, we always, like, I remember standing over her bassinet and just saying to Ryan, like, if we can just get through another 11 months of like